5 data structures. So we have looked at stack, we have looked at priority queue, we have looked at list, map. I think we have not looked at set, but set is a very easy data structure. I think we did look at set, or we didn't. We didn't. Okay, doesn't matter. Set you can figure out. So today we will move on, because I think we have a couple of more sessions or something in that range. So what we'll do today is we'll talk about JDBC, or Java connection with the database. So I'll briefly give the outline, then we'll look at a program, and then I think we have enabled JDBC, no? Okay. So we'll work with one table. If you can work with one table, you can work with 20 tables. So JDBC has been a very old thing to happen in Java. When Java didn't support JDBC, we had to go through, from Java we had to go through C, and from C we had to connect to databases. Old days, in 95, 96, when Java just came. No, after that I haven't seen that happening. So nowadays everybody connects through Java, through JDBC, to the database. Now why do you want to connect database to Java? Because Java, whatever it survives today, I don't think it survives too well, though they have been making changes as we talked about functional programming and all that. Java survives only at the back end, if at all it survives. So when you are having something at the back end, obviously you need connection with the database, because the database also resides at the back. Back means at the server side. So Java has become more or less a server side technology. It is no longer a client side or application based technology. And because it is a server side technology, one of the integral parts of a server is the database. So you need to connect to the database. So that's why JDBC is important. So if you have to write applications which are the back end of web, and you are getting requests from the web at the back end, and you have to fulfill those requests, you have to connect to the database and give data back. Now we had seen to a certain extent in the last semester, I guess, how we connected Python with the database. This is similar, same type of calls. Only difference is maybe it is somewhat more primitive, somewhat more crude, and therefore at times a little more powerful. When things become crude, they also become powerful, because if things are abstract, they don't give you low-level control. Java that way has very low-level control of the database. So there are some things which perhaps Python can't do with a database, which Java can. But today what we are going to see is just connecting Java with the database. Okay. So using that we can create a table, we can insert data, we can delete data, we can query data. Delete we can't, because on Telescope we have not enabled it. Okay. So this is a sum and substance of what you can do with Java. So what is the protocol of interaction? Okay, you understand that, you are done. First step is you need to load the JDBC driver. Now why do you need to load the driver? Because depending upon the database, the driver will be different. If you are connecting to a MySQL database, you need a different driver. If you are connecting to an Oracle database, you need a different driver. So depending upon the kind of database you choose to connect to, you will require a different driver, whatever relational database. Okay. In the next session, we will learn how to connect it to MongoDB, though that's not part of your syllabus, you should know. Here we are learning how to connect only to a relational database, not to a MongoDB, no SQL database. So MySQL, Oracle, and other relational databases like Ingress, Postgres, This all come under relational databases, that is table-based databases. So you need to load the appropriate driver. So I should say load the appropriate driver. That is the first step. Then the second step is establish a connection. Now, after the driver is loaded, you need to establish a connection with the database. While establishing the connection, you are going to use the URL of the database. Then you are going to use the username, password, which the database needs for you to connect to it. So your URL is also important, your username, password is important. So if your connection is successful and you are able to connect to the database, you will get a connection object. So once you get a connection object, you are ready to talk to the database. So load the driver, establish a connection. Once you have done establishing of connection and got a connection object, then you have to decide whether you are going to query the database, that is retrieve something from the database, or you are going to insert or update the database. Based on that, there are some variation. So let's say you are going to query the database. So what will you do? You will create a string, which is so this is a third step. You will create a string, let's say my query, and in this you will write a select statement, whatever the select statement may be. The select statement is very similar to the way you write it in a database. So you write some select statement, put it as a string, treat it as a string. Once you have that string, what you do, you already have the connection object from the earlier step. Then you have to create, using the connection object, you have to create a statement object. Now I'll tell you why you need to create a statement object. So you have got a connection object. Before you can work with the query, this step can come even earlier. You have to create a statement object. Now what is this statement object? Okay. Many people don't understand this, so I am explaining. So a statement object is needed because technically your database may be running on one machine and your Java program, which may be part of a web application, may be running on another machine. So they may be running on two different machines. Now if they are running on two different machines, there is a problem which you should know in computer science. I don't know whether I have talked about this problem earlier. It's called the little Indian, big Indian problem. It's not Indian, it is Endian. Anyone knows what is little Indian, what is big Indian? No? No one? Okay. So what is little Endian and what is big Endian is, you know, there are different kinds of hardware architectures. Now in some hardware architectures, if you have a number 1, 2, 3, 4, it will take 4 bytes. Question is, how do you store that number on that hardware? That is dependent on the hardware. It is not dependent on the language, programming language. It's dependent on the hardware. So if you have a number like 1, 2, 3, 4, some hardware will store 1 at the most significant byte, then 2, then 3, then 4. That is called MSB first. MSB first means the bigger number, bigger digit, which is 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 is the biggest digit, most powerful digit, right? So that will be stored at the lesser address. So the starting address. So that is called little Endian. Little Endian. Endian is coming, Endian is the big guy. So that is called little Endian. If you do the reverse, that is, in the hardware, 1 occupies the most significant byte and 4 occupies the least significant byte. That is called big Endian. So very often, not so much nowadays, but earlier or even now, there are 2 independent hardwares, and in one, the way you store an int, and on the other, the way you store an int may be different, because one may be a little Endian architecture, the other may be a big Endian architecture. Because they are 2 different architectures, Now, there has to be somebody who will translate the request into a neutral form, send it over the network in a neutral form, and at the receiving end, that will be translated from the neutral form into the native form. So, I hope you understand. It's simple. From native to neutral on this machine, it goes as neutral on the network as packet, reaches the end, there it gets converted from neutral to that native, which may be big Indian or little Indian. So, it is necessary to do this. This happens all the time on internet protocols, and in a database connection, JDBC takes care of it. Nowadays, this is taken care at the network layer itself. But because JDBC was written several years ago, that time the network never used to take care of this translation. So they made provision and said we will need a statement object to transmit parameters from the client to the server and back. So that is the statement object which is needed. Okay. So in today's, if you look at Python connecting to a database, they won't create a statement object because Python assumes that the network is smart enough and understands how to convert from little Indian to big Indian and vice versa. So you don't need to do that. But in case you need to do it, they have created the statement object. Okay. So anyway, this is called, there's a very nice phrase they use for this. This is called parameter marshalling. Okay. A very powerful phrase, nice sounding phrase. This is called parameter marshalling. That is, parameters which are sent from one machine are marshaled into the language of the other machine and back. Okay? It is a two-way process. So that is why you need a statement object to be created. Just a connection object will not do. So you need this statement object. This guy takes care of all that translation. Okay. Now I have a connection object. So using the connection object, I am going to create the statement object. This is created on the connection object. Okay, now I will use the statement object for any other work. So if I have a query, then what I will do, I will say, if this is a query, then assume my statement object is called st. So I will say st dot execute query, and I will give this my query as a parameter, something like this. I will say st statement object, which I got here from the connection object, which I got earlier. I will say execute query, and the moment I say execute query, what happens is I get what is called as a result set. RS is equal to st dot execute query. Now, what is this result set? Now, this is important. What is this result set? So, I had a statement object. Using the statement object, I sent a query. The query went to the database. Now, what did the database do with the query? It executed the query and it gave back results. No, it doesn't first give back results, or it gives back results, but what is coming back to us on the client side is called result set. Now, a lot of people mistake. They say result set is actually data. No, it is not data. When you execute a query, all the rows in the database, they have their row IDs, IDs of the rows. Those row IDs are brought back to the client. Every row in the database which is retrieved, its row ID, that is the internal ID of the row, comes from the database to the Java program. So at the end of it, what does this result set contain? This result set contains not the data, but it contains the references to data or IDs of that data. Many people call them references, some people call them IDs, because in database parlance, often references and IDs are used synonymously. Okay. So we execute the query, we get a result set. Now, having got a result set, on a result set, because it's a set, result set is a set, I have these two nice objects, nice methods. They are called iterators or iterator methods. Now what do I do with the result set? I first ask result set, okay. I generally write a while loop in the result set. I say while rs.next, meaning I now ask for the data to be retrieved one by one. I have got a set of row IDs. Now I have to iterate through the row IDs. So I write a loop like this. Once I have got a result set, this is what I do. I say while this result set is the rs, while rs dot next not equal to null, this is the Java null, while rs dot next, these are brackets please, not equal to null, what rs dot next will do? It will take whatever rs is pointing to, which is the first row. Rs is actually pointing to one row before the first row. So when I say rs dot next, it will go to that row, retrieve, take the row ID from the result set, go to the backend. So there is a trip here to the backend and retrieve one row, which is this current row, whose row ID is now made current, because rs dot next makes one row ID current at any given time. First time the first row ID. So with that row ID it will go, get back the row. So only one row comes and now rs will point to that row. So this result set is a very interesting guy. On the next, if you do, it will retrieve, take the row ID, retrieve the next row, bring it here. And once you bring it here, then you can say rs dot get field or get string, and then you can say get me the first column which is returned, or get me the second column which is returned. All that you can do after you have got the row set. So result set, sorry. And then you can retrieve this data, and you will get if you get string, say first name is string ename, that's the first column. So you will get string ename is equal to rs.getString 1. That is the first column to be returned from the query. Then one more field could be enumber. So if it is enumber, you will say rs.getInteger 2, because it's a number. 2 is the second value from the select statement. So like this, you can keep going on and you will retrieve the data. This is only one row. Then you do whatever you want with this row. You can throw it away, you can print it. And now, next time when it goes back here, what is going to happen? It is going to retrieve the next row again from the database. The important thing to remember here is, at any given time, only one row is brought from the database to the Java program. The Java program retrieves the data from the row. This is the retrieving of the data from the row. Once it has retrieved the data from the row, what it does with it is this guy's business. For example, if you are going to use this in HTML, you could take this, put this in an HTML tag with various tags like text tags or whatever. Put this data depending on whether you are using React or Angular or whatever language you are using, convert it into that markup. Bootstrap markup or Materials UI markup or whatever markup, create that markup and send it back. That is what we normally do. Or put this in a table form, depending on how many rows you are expecting. Create a bootstrap table or a bootstrap box and send this back to the client side. So what you do with this is none of our business. This is not our consideration right now, because we are looking at the Java side of the story, how to retrieve the data and display the data. That is what we are going to do. Now, the only variation that I have is, this is whatever I have shown you, getting a result set, first sending a query, getting a result set, all that will be true if I am doing a query. On the other hand, if I am doing an insert statement or an update statement, there will be nothing coming back except that whether the insert was successful or not, how many rows got inserted, whether the update was successful or not, how many rows got updated. That is all will be the answer. There will be no data coming back. Data will come back to me only when I run a query. When I run a select statement, then data will come back. If I don't have a select statement, data is not going to come back. So there is no result set, there is no any other work. So this is the process. Now I'll just summarize the process. So in that case, if you are giving an insert statement or an update statement, what will you say? You will not say execute query. You will say execute update. So whenever there is a change to the database, the call which I have shown there, st dot, it will be execute update, and you will send a insert statement or a delete statement or an update statement, whatever, or even a DDL statement. What is a DDL? Data definition language. Data definition language would mean creating a table or dropping a table or altering a table. All these are DDL statements. Okay, so these are the statements we work with, and these are 4 or 5 statements in JDBC. That's all. There is, what are the statements? What are the calls? First, loading the driver. Loading the driver, sometimes also we do the registration of the driver. We'll see that in a moment. Then connecting to the database. Then creating a statement object. Then depending on whether you are writing an insert or a retrieval, creating a SQL query or an insert statement. Then sending that statement to the database using execute update or execute query. If you are doing execute query, you get something back, result set, which you write a loop using rs.next and retrieve data. If you are doing execute update or execute update for an insert or a delete or an update, you don't get back anything except how many rows got affected. That's all. So that is all that is there in JDBC. Well, that is all that is not all in JDBC. There is so much more even in JDBC. But at this stage we do only that much. Okay. There are, maybe not today. We will talk about it at length sometime how do you do what is called conflict management in a database. Suppose there is one ticket left, okay, and 2 people simultaneously reach the counter and both of them want to update or occupy that ticket. What happens? One guy does a retrieval but is yet to update. In that short time, somebody else retrieves it and he does the update. So when this guy goes to do an update, he won't get it. So there is this whole database operations called before image, after image, all that. Nowadays, they become important on certain platforms. I don't know how many of you have heard of a platform called ServiceNow or Salesforce. On these platforms, because they are extremely data intensive, all these operations matter. So now we teach it when we talk about ServiceNow or when we talk about Salesforce, not in a regular curriculum. Okay, so let's now quickly, we will show them the code for creating this table and inserting data. They will do this and then queries will start. Okay, fine. Let's go down. You will have to create this data programmatically in your, we have for each one of you on the telescope, we have set up a private database instance. That is, your instance and your instance will not be same. You know what is an instance, right? One database instance or object. That is called an instance. So for each one of you, we have set up one so that you can exercise, play with it and understand how to do with it. And okay, so there will be some variation in the URL, I guess. Okay, we'll just walk through a program which we want you to do. Just watch it carefully and we'll tell you what change to do. Yeah, this program is, I think, a good program. You should know what to do. So let's walk through this Java program. So you import java.sql.star. You know why? Because all the SQL related. Actually, this will work only, this program works only with relational databases, not with MongoDBs of the world, not with NoSQL databases. For that, we need to write a different code, because there we have more the key value kind of correlation. Nowadays, in today's world, this actually is not so common as all the databases that you see on Amazon and all. They are mainly key value pairs like RDB or Dynamo. In fact, that's what we have included in your third year syllabus, that you should know Dynamo, you should know how to do Lambda, AWS Lambda service. You should know how to do all of that, because today everybody programs on the cloud. Very rarely will you install a database on your machine. You may do it only for practice, but not for real life. Everybody is on the cloud, so you program also on the cloud. You don't often install on your PC and do. So you have to get comfortable with cloud and all that. So we have made a lot of changes in your next semester. There are n number of tutorials, please pick up. Anyway, we are teaching you Docker next semester, but you should know all this. There are some basic skills. I think GitHub everybody would know. So you should be extremely familiar with these things. GitHub, how to create a repository. Docker Hub, how do you work with Docker images? Why do you create Docker images? How do you work with them? Because if you have to go onto the cloud, one of the challenge of the cloud is what? It is not like your desktop, right, where you can install whatever you want. Well, technically you can, but that's not how you do. What do? You develop code on your desktop, then take it to the cloud and deploy it on the cloud. Often what problem comes? The environment which you have on your desktop and the environment which is there on the cloud happen to be different, correct? And most people can't deploy also. They can't go onto the cloud. They think cloud is some magic and something. No, you have to be very comfortable with that. And so what you have to do? On your desktop, you have to create a Docker image, and you don't have to transport your code, but transport your Docker image to the cloud. Every cloud in the world today has a Docker container, so you have to run it there. So it becomes very easy to transform it and do it, correct? Because on your PC you will have one version, in real cloud you will have a different version, you don't work. So let me start. So we will say static final. Well, if you want you can make it static final or whatever, but it doesn't matter. So first you have to say which driver are you going to use. This I told you. This driver, the name of the driver is a Java class. So this name of this class varies from setup to setup. That means from Oracle to MySQL to Ingress to Postgres. This database driver will change. The name, as you can see in the name, what do you think this driver is for? MySQL. Because com.mysql. whatever. So probably the driver for Oracle will be com.orcl.jdbc.driver. This is just a name of a class. It's a Java class using which you can, which is needed to talk to that particular type of database. If it is MySQL, Oracle. So first you need to define that class. Second, if you look at it, that is a URL. As you know, the one before the colon is the protocol of the URL. So the protocol like HTTP, HTTPS, in place of that what do we have? We have JDBC :MySQL. That is the protocol that we are talking with the database. So we have to mention the protocol. It's just like a regular URL. Only thing is in place of HTTP we have JDBC :MySQL. Then this side of the story, right? That is the name of the network protocol that you are going to talk to the database. So that comes next. Then you have to give the host name. Local host means your database is on your same machine, which may not be true. If it is somewhere else, you have to give either the IP address or the domain name of that database. where the database server is. Because very often the database server will be a different machine. It may be also on the internet somewhere. So if you want to connect to that, you should know the IP address or the path name, whatever, something dot dot whatever. So localhost, second line. So this is the URL. First is the protocol. Second part is where is the database running, and DemoDB is the name of the database we have already created for you on Telescope. This is the name of the database. This is a single database we have created for all of you. So you all connect to this database only. Okay. So that is the name of the database. Please don't use any other name, because that is the name on the Telescope. We have already created a database with that name. If you want some other name on your machine, you install MySQL, create a name of that database, you can use it. It's just we have created DemoDB. Okay, then for any connection to the database, we need a username and password. In this case, all of you have to use the same username and the same password, because you are all connecting to the same database instance. So you connect to username is DB user, password is whatever you see there. That is the password, right? So while connecting, you need the URL, you need the driver, and you need the username and password, because you are connecting as a program, but you have to have some username and some password. So now we start the program. Main. Okay. First step is you have to load the database. As I said, we need two objects. One is the connection object, the other is a statement object. Connection object establishes the connection. Statement object, I told you, is for parameter marshalling, for ensuring that the parameters match, little Indian, big Indian. Then we go to step 2 or step 1, whatever you want to call it. This is the loading of the driver. We have given the name of the driver above. This is the loading of the driver. Okay. So class for name com.mysql. So that line, if you don't give, this will be enough. So class for name, this is the loader, the Java loader. It loads the class, because the standard JVM does not have this class. You have to load it explicitly. So we are loading it, because the standard JVM is not coming with it. So we loaded the driver. com.mysql.jdbc.driver, we have loaded the driver. Now, using the driver, once the driver is loaded, it gets registered under something called driver manager. So your Java has something called a driver manager, which is a collection, some kind of collection, in which this driver gets registered. So automatically, you don't have to register. So now, you look at line statement number 3, step 3. We are opening a connection to the database. How do we do that? We ask the driver manager. There is a static method on the driver manager called get connection. So we do get connection. Then we say URL, database URL. Database URL is the string. Remember that protocol, localhost, name of the database, DemoDB. All that is called DB URL. So we get a connection to the DB URL, but while getting a connection, we obviously need to give the username and the password, which we have already created. So once your connection is successful, if you at any point if you get a failure, it will throw an exception, and that will be an SQL exception which you have to catch at the end. So all this should go into a try-catch kind of a block, or you declare that exception, whatever you choose. So best is to catch the SQL exception, because it will throw that SQL exception. You write a catch statement and it will catch. So now connection is open to the database. Now we will create, remember, once you create a connection, we still need to create the statement object. So this is how you create a statement object. So statement is equal to con.create statement. So this is how you create a statement object. Now having created a statement object, now we are in a good position. We have got the connection object. Using the connection object, so if you recollect the steps, first load the driver, second get a connection, third create a statement object. Now we have got a statement object, and now we can proceed. We create the statement object. Now we have just a simple statement which we want to issue to the database. It's a DDL. So what we are saying, create table department G Yeah, here please listen carefully. When you create your table, don't say DPTG. Say DPT and last 3 digits of your roll number. So, every roll number has last 3 digits. Take the last 3 digits and add them there. Whatever are the last 3 digits of your roll number. Last 3, no, not first 3. First 3 will be same. Yeah. Okay. Last 3. So, create table DPT, last 3 digits of your roll number. Now, it's like a regular SQL statement for table creation. Department number, data type is integer, that is not null is the constraint. Then you have to be careful with the brackets because these are all strings which are concatenated. We write a statement. Actually, it's pretty easy to write it. Department number integer not null, that is a string. Department name is a varchar 255. I am presuming you know what is a varchar. What is a varchar? Variable character. So its size can be anything from, do you know what will happen if I say char in place of varchar? I'm sorry? No. If I say dname char 255, what will happen? No? Anyone knows? What's the difference between writing char 255 and varchar 255? No, what it means is that whether your dname is 10 characters or 15, what will happen? It will take 255. It will be fixed. That's not good. Lot of people create databases like that, char 255. Char 255 means even if you store 10 characters, it will become 255. It will occupy space for 255. Remaining will be blank. If you say varchar, only space will be created which is 250, whatever is required. So if you have department name physics, only physics string, only that much space will be created, not 255. But that is where most people understand. But it's always not good to have varchar. Varchar is very slow. Char is very fast. Okay. It is like what? In Java, varchar and char are like what? What is the analogy? Let's see. No, someone will be there here who will connect. Varchar and char, there are two similar things in regular Java. What are those? No? Array and array list. Something even easier. Yes? Map. No. Hash map, pre-map is sorting and not sorting. Something like this. Char, varchar. Yes? Somebody? Huh? Exactly. String and string builder. String is immutable, fixed size. String can never change, immutable. Correct? Whereas string builder, it shrinks and expands to keep track of what size it is. Correct? So, char and varchar relationship is very similar. Char means whether you like it or not, whatever you give it will take that. Not a good thing. But remember, why people don't use string builder often and they use string? The string is very fast, fixed size. Something which can stretch is slow. Something which is fixed is fast. Same thing. If you need speed, you will use char. If you want to save space, you will use varchar. Same thing as in Java, if you need speed, you will use string. If you want to save space, you will use string builder. Okay? Yeah. So, we have this create table statement created this way. There is a constraint, name of the constraint is PK department. It is a primary key on department number. That is a table. Okay. Then what will we do? Then we will say statement dot execute update. Remember, we will not say execute query. Why will we not say execute query? Because I will do execute query only if it is a select statement. If I have created a select statement, this is a DDL statement or an insert statement or an update statement. We will never use execute query. We will say execute update. Anything which changes is execute update. Create table also changes the database because it's creating a new table. Insert changes because it's inserting a row. Delete changes because it's deleting, right? Any change, execute update. Only retrieval, execute query. Okay, execute update, we get that. Then we will not get a result set. Now in this example, this will stop here because you created a data. Now you have to do these two things. Statement dot close to close the statement object, because otherwise it will be left hanging. In case there is an exception, it will come to SQL exception and we print stack trace, or for all other exceptions we can close, we can do handle thing. And finally is very important, because if you have a statement object, even though you don't have an exception, we'll close it. Actually we don't have to put it there, we have to put it here only. If statement is not equal to null, close the statement object and that exception, and we have to also close the connection object. You can simply close the statement object and the connection object in the finally, because we are giving up the connections and statement objects. First close the statement object, then close the connection object. So that is in general the code. Okay, what we'll do is we'll give this to you. You create a database with that change of name of the database. Okay? Name of the table, sorry, department table. You just take care of the change so that you can create a table. Okay, we are giving you the code. If you do this only, you can go to the next stage, because then we'll do something with the table. Okay, we have given you that program 121, just check. And please create only one table, don't create more than one table, because otherwise our database cannot handle so many, because there are so many people here. Just create one table please. Only care you have to take, I think you have understood. Last 3 digits after the name of the table, DEPT, last 3 digits. Take the code, create the table. Don't write anything else. Your main code should stop at execute update SQL, and below that you can just write catch SQL exception. If you want catch exception, finally. In finally also there is a try catch, but you can simplify it if you want by saying stmt.close and con.close. That's all. So please run this code, run that code and get your table created. So if your table is created, then we can run other queries. If you run the program, it will create. You just have to take the program and run with the change, because I want your department table to be created so that we can proceed. Yeah, some of you are able to do. Run again. Okay, so we have some number of tables created. Some of you have done that. It's just that you have to run that program, that's all, and table gets created. Okay. Now we'll insert some data in that table. Okay, now we will give you another program which will insert data. First we'll go through the program and then we will show you the program. We'll give you the program. Yeah, these are the tables you have to, these are the data you have to create. Now, in the same columns. Now we have to show them an insert statement. No, JDBC insert. Acha, you are doing it, is it? Oh, okay. So, what you have to do is, you have to create those 4 departments so that your queries will match our query and they will be validated by telescope. Okay, so the four tables, but wait, don't create just now. 4 rows. So you have to say insert into whatever the name of the table that you have done, whatever name that you have created, values, just that, values. Now be careful about only 1 or 2 fields. Can we see the columns? Yeah, here you have to be careful because department name accounting has to be in single quote. Now they have to know that because see, accounting has to go as a string. Whatever is there, it's uppercase. And sales. Naming is also sales. So let's see whether this goes through. Just put this inside. I'm just not sure whether that insert is going through with that single quote. Are you sure? Okay. This is working, no? No, we don't know.
I did.
You have run this?
Yes,
sir. Okay. Fine. So, here is the insert statement. Now, the insert statement goes like this. Insert into table name, values, 10, around that accounting or whatever the name of the department, that single quote is mandatory. If you don't give that single quote, it won't work. And also around that city or location, there is that New York, which also needs the single quote. If you don't give the single quote, it won't work. So that single quote is mandatory there. And then send the insert statement using execute update only because it's changing. So what you need to do is, now you need to modify your program. Don't create table, remove that line and substitute it with 4 inserts, one after another. So you will say SQL insert, execute update, call it SQL1, SQL2, SQL3, SQL4. Like that, create 4 SQL statements. You're getting me? And do insert into the database. Every time, after every SQL1, you say statement.execute update SQL1. So, some of you may do it. So, just change you create a string called SQL1 equal to insert into whatever the name of the table you have created, values, whatever, with that single quote and single quote, whatever the name of the department and location, issue this insert statement. This is your insert statement. Say statement st dot execute update SQL1. Okay. Then similarly say create another SQL statement and say call it SQL2 and execute it. Like that 4 times for this data. Now I don't know whether you have this data. Is this data there?
Yes, sir. I've given in the request file.
In the request file this data is there. Okay. This is the data. which you have to create. Okay, now don't say department name there, huh? Just say values, 10 accounting in single quote, New York in single quote. Same way for 20, 30, 40. Please do that. So that you will have 4 rows which we can write queries on.
After they do select star, that will be displayed like
Yeah, after that, once you have inserted, just check on your table like this. Take any of the tables which has been created. 735. DEPT 735. Select star from not yet. Yeah, anybody has inserted, let us know the table. We can check. Not able to do? Done. 052. So DEPT 052. 23. 23. 2T. Okay. 052T.
capital T.
I think it won't matter. Does MySQL check? Yeah, this is how it should appear. Yeah. Yeah, please do that insert into your table. 4 inserts. Create 4 SQL statements, one after another. MySQL 1, MySQL 2, whatever you want to call it. SQL 1, SQL 2, SQL 3. Execute update so that they will execute in your table and you will get data. Then we can do I'll show you a retrieval. Then you write the retrieval on your own. Then our test cases will work. Anyone else? 51L. DEPT 51L. Just 51L. Yeah. This is what we want you to do. You insert that data in the database, in the table that you have created. Over. You just have to say execute update, 4 statements. Accounting, whatever that, 4 departments. Put single quote around accounting and location, because those are strings. In MySQL we need to put strings. Yeah, this is the data we want you to go take to the data. It's given to you in the request file. Please create this data. How many finished? Just replace the insert, the SQL with whatever SQL. Don't do create table. Remove the create table, substitute with the insert. And comment out everything else. Don't retrieve anything because there is nothing in the table. Over? Yeah, how many left? We have created the table, we have inserted data in the table. Now we should be able to retrieve data from the table. That's all the skill that is needed with JDBC. How to insert through a Java, how to create a table through a Java program, how to insert data through a Java program, how to retrieve data through a Java program. Acha, you can do an update also, you can do a delete also. Same. No difference. Only thing is you have to write the update statement in Java. Java means using a... Okay. Now, Okay, now we have a separate exercise or same exercise?
Separate.
So how does the code go there? No, so much of code they can't write, no? Of that program.
First one.
No. First one, just don't give the.
This result.
Don't give that. Give up to.
When they have to write.
Okay, we'll give you another. We'll now open another test case where we are giving you the beginning of the program, so you don't have to type it, and only part you have to type is retrieval part. Okay. In that program, only the retrieval you have to type. Okay, not insertion, not creation. All that is done. That one. Now we have started an exercise. Program 2, 21 July. 2107. So if somebody can open that program, we'll show. Somebody just save it, or we can also open it here. Yeah, somebody just save the program 2, so that we have to refresh. Good. So, so we have given you the bulk of the program here. Go down. Yeah, we have given you the bulk of the program. Only difference is, can you, okay. So, you have to write an SQL query there on line 46. You have to write a query, I think it is retrieving all the data. So the query also is select star from whatever the name that you gave to the table, DPT, whatever. So just say select star from there and you will get the execution. And then what you need to do is, we have blinded the step 5, that is all that you need to do, which is you have to extract the data using result set. RS, you have to, another thing you have to do is, on line 47, you have to say, not execute update, you have to say, on line 47, result set RS is equal to stmt dot execute query. That query is in brackets, double quotes, select star from whatever the name of the table you have given. Okay, you have to retrieve that data. Then you have to say that while loop, while rs dot next, keep doing it, retrieve every column. Now that code is there in our question 1, earlier question. So if you keep that question open, you will know how to retrieve data from department and display that data the way it is shown. That's all you have to do. That is question 2. But for question 2 to work, you should have created the table and you should have inserted the data the way we asked you. Then only this question will work. You have to do execute query, result set, and this is how you have to display the data. You have to retrieve the data using DPT small, but while displaying you have to use small only. Okay. In the question you will see how the data is to be displayed. This is how the data is to be displayed. Yeah. Just retrieve the data and show the data, that's all. And please go to the same table you inserted data to. You just have to write a loop. First write execute query, get the result set, then say while rs.next. You can see the code in your earlier question. We have the code in the earlier question. If you want, we'll show the code also. See this. This is the code. So select star from department. That is your query. Then execute query using the result set. Then while rs.next, get all the fields and then display the values. This is all that is we are asking you to do. Over? Over. One person. Only 6. Okay, we'll wait. How many finished? 24. Okay, I don't think many of you are going to finish. It's improving, but still very low. Okay, let's pick one of the person who has finished. Okay, so here is the thing which we were expecting to do. This is the way. If you follow from line 46, select star from DEPT 518. I think that person's table is whatever 518, DEPT 518. So we are retrieving from that table, or he is retrieving from that table. The statements are 47. Result set rs is equal to statement.execute query. So he is executing a query using that SQL statement on the statement object, which is connected to the same database, same table, everything. And then that important loop is starting on line 51, while rs.next id is equal to first field, second field, third field, fourth field, sorry. There are 4 fields, so id is equal to rs.getin department number. Acha, only 3 fields have to be retrieved. Department number, department name and location. Acha, why unnecessarily is again doing it? Okay. So we can remove that line 56. We don't need that. id is equal to rs.getInt. Now why is he saying getInt on department number? Because department number is an integer field. Remaining 2 are string fields. So you have to say rs.getString department name. This will retrieve only 1 row at a time. Then rs.getString location, that 56 not needed. Then he is displaying it, department number colon, there is a space after colon, plus id plus question mark, plus comma. After comma also there is a space. Okay, be careful with that. And first all the 3 fields, department number, department name and location. What you call them is not important. And then there is a println to go to the next line, and then it continues, and all the 4 rows are retrieved and you get the answer. So that is all that you need to do. If you have got the table created correctly and the data inserted correctly. If the data has been correctly inserted, then the answer will also come with this query. Okay. So this is the way our databases will work with JDBC. So as far as JDBC is concerned, this is all, no? This much only you are expected to know how to establish, load the driver, establish the connection, create a statement object, whatever, do execute update or execute SQL depending on what you want to do, insert, update, delete, and retrieve data. While retrieving the data, you should be familiar with result set, okay, and how to retrieve data from a result set. That's all we need you to know. That is all that is compulsory or mandatory from syllabus point of view as far as Java is concerned, that you are able to connect to a database, retrieve data from the database and show it. That's all.